It's a real honor being here.
Well, thank you. Welcome to the Mercury News.
Who are you?
I'm Mac Tully, president and publisher of the Mercury News.
Yeah. Well, it's a real honor meeting you because I've read the paper here or read the news from the Mercury News since I was like 11 years old living in the valley here.
God bless you.
Well, I don't buy the paper anymore. So.
Well, if you're reading this online, you know, it's content is king. So
yeah.
we monetize that too.
And one of the things I wanted to get around and see the local paper again because we've been to the New York Times and the Washington Post, and we're getting a little take of the newspaper industry and what the future is. And
so you want to come see a real newspaper?
Yeah. Well, an innovative newspaper, right? Because you're the newspaper for Silicon Valley, and we wanted to come and see what's happening in the news business and how bad is it? I guess.
Well, I mean, it's evolving. And so I don't know if anybody can actually answer that question. I mean, the thing that's going on with us today is there's two distinct things that are affecting our business, right? You have newspapers are definitely in a sea change. I'm not sure we would have admitted that 5 years ago, but there's no denying it today. I mean, basically our whole business model is shifting. I mean, our content is still very valuable, and we really are the only ones who really produce the kind of in-depth coverage of our communities that we serve, unlike any other media. I mean, we have more people in our newsroom than the electronic media combined, right? So we have something, and it's something that people always are going to want because people always want to know how the schools are that their children attend, the taxes that they pay, the roads that they drive on, all those things that make up the community we provide. And people still want that information. What's changing is how people want to receive it, whether it's going to be in paper, which clearly the vast majority of people still want, but it's in a slow mode of decline. Yeah. There's a migration to online. So
is it still about 50? I know when I met with the publisher of the Washington Post, he said still more than 50% of his households wake up with a paper on their doorstep every morning.
Yeah, see, now that's a whole dynamic that I think is an archaic measurement of how newspapers are. So I really take exception to measuring newspaper coverage by households. Unless you're a preprint advertiser, it bears very little resemblance of how you should be analyzing this, because it's all about people exposed to the ad, right? That's how electronic media is judged. That's how radio, broadcast media are judged. So why judge us by households? Judge us by people reached, and when you do that, we will reach 7 out of 10 adults in the DMA that we serve. So,
DMA is?
Well, designated marketing area, but really it would be Santa Clara County for us. But back to your first question, you know, we have this whole sea change going on in the newspaper industry. At the same time, we have a worsening economic environment. Either one of those two things could make your life hell. But those two things combined are really having an exponential, they're just making our problem considerably larger than it
Yeah, I heard you didn't have any gray hair like a month ago.
I had a lot of hair. I turned gray last week.
So how is the economy treating the newspaper business right now? You know, we're all studying different aspects of how the economy, like we were in a restaurant the other day in San Francisco, and the bartender said, yeah, business is way down. How is that affecting you? Are those restaurants buying fewer ads? Or
yeah, I mean, absolutely. Everybody's challenged right now, and that's definitely impacting us. I actually had dinner last night with a friend of mine, came in from Dallas, who's in the diamond wholesale business, and he goes, Mac, what are you down right now? And I said, well, it's in the high teens. And compared to last year, and I said, you know, basically we're trying to run an operation on $4 when we had $5 to work with last year. I mean, it makes it very tough. He said, well, my business is down 50% over the previous year. And I just said, damn, you know, that makes it really hard. So what's happening, all the people he sells to, they're trying to figure out how the holiday season's going to go, but at the end of the holiday season, if they don't do their nut, and a lot of them will do 40 to 50% of their business during the holidays. They don't have a good holiday season there are going to be a lot of bankruptcies. So I think what we're seeing right now is business tough. I think as we head into the beginning part of next year, the opportunity for really tough times are really staring us in the face.
Is there any hope in the newspaper business? Or?
Oh, absolutely. I'm
any good news there? Or is it all doom and gloom?
No, I absolutely, positively, I'm probably one of the biggest proponents that newspapers will survive this. We won't look like we did. We won't look even like we are today, because we are changing to evolve with the times, which other media have had to do in the past. We're not the only ones that go through sea changes. You know, magazines had to go through it when radio came in, completely changed their world, but magazines evolved into what they are today, and it's a pretty good business model. And radio changed their business model, and television came in and rocked their world, but radios are still a pretty good business model today. So internet's rocking our world right now, big time.
We were talking before the cameras turned on that I was in China, and it was interesting when we arrived in Shenzhen, somebody Twittered me and said, "Hey, were you affected by the riots?" I said, "What riots?" And I went over to Google News, stuck in the word Shenzhen, and found out there was some major riots that weekend in town. So that demonstrates a little bit about how local news is turning global. Are you sensing that same kind of effect, and is there a way for a local paper like the Mercury News to profit off of that?
Well, first of all, where did Google get that information?
From the local paper.
That's right. It's not. They are not a news generator. They're an aggregator. Yeah. There's very few. See, that's where content is. What is our core competency, and that's really what separates us from other businesses. Nobody else has that. It's really valuable stuff. You know, we just had to figure out how to better monetize it on the web, because a reader like yourself, when you read us in print, is considerably more valuable today to one of our advertisers than when you see their ad online.
Why is that?
You know, that's a good question, because you're the same person, wants, needs, desires, buying abilities, all the things that make you a good candidate for that advertiser. They just right now don't have the same level of value that they would put in terms of cost per thousand or cost per rating point when you see that online. Now that's going to change over time, but what's happened with us is we lose these really valuable print readers to our online model, and it's worth about 1/10 to us in terms of CPM. So
you would think that the online would come up,
particularly
because the online you can measure. You can measure whether I actually clicked on that ad or looked at that ad or took action because of that ad. Where if I read an ad in the print, you don't know anything about me. You don't know that I read it. One, like you said, you don't know that I even picked it off on my doorstep and actually looked at the paper, right?
Well, we knew through readership studies, but not on that day how many, that's the advantage of the internet site, how many people click on the, your click-through rates, how long your retention is, and how well you have people stickiness, how much they're coming back to the site.
Do you think there's hope there? Do you sense that you guys and us, as bloggers and the online people are going to come up with a new advertising model that really works and that advertisers really buy into and really understand and really see value in? Yes.
I do know. The only thing I really know about the internet is whatever it is today will be different tomorrow. Yep. You talk about evolving media. The platform on our desktops right now is not how people are going to access information. I don't know whether it'll be on your mobile phone, but it'll be some type of technology that, I don't know if it's on your glasses. You see these glasses today where you can watch movies now and it looks like a 70-inch screen. Maybe it's through your glasses. You can just access the information that you want. Again, if the information is ours, though, that you are accessing, that's the value that we have. That's something that we can't ever lose sight of. Is, we can have other people deliver the medium. We can have other people maybe sell the ads for the medium. We can have other people print it or create it. But in terms of the content generation, that's really ours. Yeah. We have to control that.
One reason Google became so valuable was they grabbed all the low-hanging fruit for advertising. And let me explain what I mean by that. If I'm buying, let's say, if I have in my mind that I need a stroller because I have a new kid in my life, I'm going to go to Google and search on stroller and search on some brands and that my friends have told me to check out. And I'm going to see those ads on the right side and I'm going to click on them, right? So I'm going to go from need in my head to transaction very quickly and very efficiently. That's harder to do with a newspaper where I'm reading about a murder or a scandal in the mayor's office or or some new tax bill or something like that, because I'm not in that transactional behavior when I'm reading that kind of news. How do you think online advertisers are going to take advantage of the higher fruit and make something like a Google from people like me who are reading news but not in a transactional behavior mode?
Well, it's a really good point. But once people enter into the search mode, they're already thinking in terms of, I want a mattress, I want a new television set, I want a new appliance, whatever it might be. That's way on down the behavioral decision-making curve than really when you want to catch people. You want to catch them at the beginning, and that's before they really know. It's all that part of that thin market concept. There's X amount of people in the market today that could be influenced to buy. There's X amount of people who will buy. Well, you want to get into the could be influenced to buy. Those are the people who, if you were reading through the main news of the newspaper, came upon a full-page ad and it said appliances on sale for 50% off today, that might get your attention as you're saying, you know what, my refrigerator's starting to go on the whack, maybe I need to be thinking about that, before you've already made the decision, I got to replace the damn refrigerator. That's really where the power of mass media comes in, because you catch a much wider group of people who could be influenced to buy if you put the proper message in front of them. So whereas the Google's catching them pretty far on down the funnel process, a more broad-based medium has, in my opinion, a much stronger appeal. And I think most marketers will agree with you. I was with one of our biggest advertisers last week in Chicago, which is where I got my cold. And quite frankly, their opinion of where search advertising is going was very diminished. I mean, because it's going to be beyond where search is. I mean, obviously, online internet is going to be the future for all of us. But the current plays aren't really how it's going to play out in the future. How it's going to play out in the future is really undecided. We've just got to make sure we're players. We've got to make sure we're part of all that action with partnerships like we have with Yahoo and Zillow and Apartments.com and Homescape, all these different companies like Cars.com out there that offer value, but we offer the sales force and content in order to bring it up, make them more viable.
Yeah. How is the newsroom changing? Because I see a couple trends. One, there's this thing called citizen journalism. There's bloggers who came out of the woodwork like me who weren't in the newsroom, 5 years ago, and now we're considered sort of journalists, something like that. Blogger, some of us are doing journalism, some of us are doing opinion writing, but we're participating in the news manufacture process or spreading process at minimum. And you see also on the other side trends toward video and pictures, and my posts today now have audio, video, text, pictures, and interactivity with chat rooms and stuff like that. That's quite different than the skills that a journalist learned 20, 30 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Give me a sense of where you see the...
Well, I think it's helped the business. Quite frankly, more information out there I think helps. The traditional newsroom plays a really important role because our responsibility is we do vet things very carefully. It goes through lots of different copy, fact checking, and so hopefully our readers can always trust and be sure that this has in fact happened. Where, as you know, before the election, a lot of things came out that people just wrote, got angry, sat down at their computer and made up. Michelle Obama preached at the in front of the church pulpit and said "Whitey," and people just took that. Does that really happen? Well, in fact, when you research that, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so that's where the role of a newspaper comes in. Now, I do think bloggers really add to the conversation and really expand the the thought process, which is really what you want people to really be exposed to lots of different ideas on what's the right way to fix the economy, or what's the right tax base that people should have, whatever it might be, and then they can make up their own mind. We just wanted them to do it in a manner that they are better educated and make a more responsible decision, have a more thought process involved in that.
Yeah. How is the speed of the internet affecting the newspaper business, your newsroom? Is it causing your processes to be changed, or causing you to rethink how news is produced and should be interacted with, I guess?
Definitely, it's changing us from one cycle a day to 24/7. The ability for us to use video, which is very important for us, really puts us more on a level playing field with electronic media. And because we have so many more people in our newsroom generating that content than a typical television station might have, quite frankly, that gives us a really strong advantage.
And you're not stuck into a half an hour slot at 11 p.m. either.
Right. Now, I would say this, and this has been my experience in Kansas City. Video didn't have the traction that I originally thought it would, because holy cow, now we're going to be able to do what television's been able to do. We can have sights down motion and all those fun things, but we have this army out there, and we can really converge on the entire community and cover it in a much more, in a stronger manner. We didn't, first of all, we were never able to really sell it the way I thought we were going to be able to sell it in terms of advertising content, because 85% of our revenues come from advertising. So we've got to figure out ways to intrigue our advertisers and, entice them to buy that product. So I think it'll evolve, but right now it's still, again, it's not quite there. Like many things on the internet, still aren't quite there.
We're all trying to figure it out, aren't we?
Yeah, well, you're going to help us, I have no doubt. So,
anything else you'd like to say to the internet? There's a few people watching.
Well, no, first of all, it's it's a big part of our future. In terms of where we've been and where we're going, that's where we have to go. I don't know if we'll ever completely turn our back on print, but clearly the web is going to be where people can more easily access our information, certainly on a more timely basis, more in depth than we would ever be able to do in paper. And as old people like myself die off, the younger generation come up who've really grown up with the web, I think that'll be the transition that they need. So yeah. It's important for us, and we're just as much a fan of the web as anybody else.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks.